Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Eduardo Ruiz with us today. Eduardo is CEO at IG Transformers. We're going to talk about what he does and the business, how it's going this year, and everything in between. This podcast is brought to you by my own podcasting company. It's called podfire.com. If you want to start or scale your podcast, go to podfire.com. Eduardo, I'm happy to have you on. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays?
Thank you, Charles. This is exciting. Thank you for having me in the podcast. Well, I'm father of two, a 6-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. So that's a challenge per se. I've been in the electrical business for, I'm going to say around 29 years already, but this is third generation going into the electrical business. I used to work for Westinghouse Motor Company, selling electric motors. And then I've been in IG for a little over 10 years already, and 5 years as CEO. When I got to IG, the first challenge I got is that this is a very old company, 84-year-old company. So I had to break a lot of paradigms, and how I did that is we ran a market study. So back in 2015, we grew double digit the next 3 years because of that knowledge of the market. So it was very exciting times. Then there was a bit of a slump in the electrical business. And now there's a lot of challenges in the transformer business, mainly because you have electromobility and you have climate change, which has not prepared the manufacturers to the challenges you face when you have a hurricane in Acapulco and swiping 250 transformers in 30 minutes. So it's challenging, but very exciting moments right now.
Right. So tell us about what happened in Acapulco for those that don't know and how your company was involved in the efforts to help the situation.
Sure. There was this big storm that impacted Acapulco. It's in the shore of Mexico. And it took away a lot of electric poles and along with them transformers. So the challenge is to be prepared for scenarios like that. So we currently serve the only utility in Mexico called CFE. So as the second largest supplier to them, we had to be able to react. But this is challenging moments because right now, even in the USA, the delivery time for one of the regular transformers, it's over 170 weeks. So it's getting crazy.
That's a lot of time. And for those like me that don't know what a transformer does, can you explain?
Sure. In the electrical business, you have generation, transmission, and distribution. And IG is in the distribution part of the energy process. So what you see in the grid, mainly in the poles and pads, which is down to the floor level transformers, what we do is that we transform the high power lines into a rating that can be used either in houses, in schools, hospitals. So we transform the electricity down to a level that we can use on a daily basis.
So who are your end customers?
We do serve mainly utilities because they own the grid, but also general industries. If you see a hospital, there's at least one transformer there. If you see a factory, you'll have also either power transformers or path transformers. So you will have those installed over there also. And in general industry, if there's a need for electricity, there's a need for a transformer.
Right. And how much can one of these cost for one establishment?
Well, that's also something that's changing a lot. It used to be a commodity business a few years ago, but because of this high demand, it has been, I'm going to say, a social good, which it's good for the business, to be honest, but it's a challenge because if you don't have a transformer, you will pay anything to get power. So at this moment, it's becoming a social good to have availability of a good transformer. So I'm going to say a distribution transformer before pandemic will be around $2,500, and now it can go up to $25,000 a transformer. So it has varied a lot. It depends on the availability and also challenges in the supply chain.
Wow. And all of these are produced in Mexico?
There are manufacturers all around the world. We have a lot of manufacturers also in Mexico. There are just a few large ones, and there are a lot of brand names out there like Siemens, ABB, Hitachi, Prolic, GE. So we're the second largest one in Mexico, and hoping to get a bite from the USA market.
And you sell probably around 1,000 to 10,000 of these a year, or is that the volume?
It's a little around 20,000 per year. And also now we're trying to serve colleagues in the business. So we're also sourcing parts or components to the transformers to other manufacturers because of the great need.
That's a big volume right there. So how did you get number two, and would it be possible for you to get number one in the next 5 years?
Well, to be honest, is not the rank position that we're chasing. We're more concerned on being a more conscious company, and that making our employees and our suppliers and customers more conscious partners to deal with, instead of being only the number one in the market. How we became number two is because we comply a lot with the regulations, and it's not easy. We have a lot of certifications, and that makes a big difference among us versus other manufacturers. And the challenge IG has had for years, I would say, is that we're a sole 100% Mexican-owned company at this moment. And it's a challenge because you can face someone like Siemens, and you have a big brother. You can call Germany and say, okay, we have a cash flow problem. How can you help? So that's probably one of the holdbacks for IG not to jump to the next level.
And what are the advantages of being 100% Mexican?
You can have more agile organization. And since I became CEO, what I've tried to do is to flatten the organization so you can see very clear what's going on, and we can make expedite decisions and solve issues or problems, because they're not problems of one person or one area, it's company problems. So that has been very, very helpful. And we're seeking also for investors, and I've been talking to some family office investors, and we're also evaluating the possibility of having some synergy with even so-called competitors, but for me are more colleagues. It's the key is to collaborate, not to want to be the number one.
Right. How was COVID for the company? Was it beneficial or was it not beneficial?
It was a challenge. Actually, we were lucky enough, even though we're around a 500 employee organization, we didn't lost anyone, and we took very good care of our staff, our people. And in terms of the business, actually, it was a challenge, but we kind of overcome the situation very good. The challenge came after the Russian-Ukraine war with the supply chain. That did hurt the business a bit.
I want to ask you though, also because you worked in sales for that same company for a while. How did you access the CEO position in 2019?
Oh, that's a good story. Um, I've been a guy that wants to perform and let the work show to to prove who I am. So when I came to IG's average uh, stay of each employee was around 25 years old in the company. So it was a challenge because I was the outsider. So I tried to run my performance by facts, and that kind of shook things a little bit because as a family-owned business, it's all about telling stories. Now the numbers were telling the true stories. And when I did the market study, like I said, a lot of paradigms were broken, and things that the company thought were not that accurate. So I believe it was based on the performance and the way I live the core values of the organization, which is accountability, speed, continuous improvement, on learning. I think ownership look at that and evaluated that, and then we run into a process with an external coach to evaluate first if it was outside the company or an inside process. It ended up an inside process, and I was competing with the COO back then, which is a very good Canadian Monterey guy. And at the end, it was an unanimous decision from the committee, ownership, and the consultant that they voted for me to stay in this position.
Interesting. And what was the process of becoming like 100% sole proprietorship at Mexican company? Like why did you actually decided to branch out?
Well, it was a family business, third generation, and again, I believe that the challenges were because of the organization not looking abroad and looking at the synergies that could have come if you open the company to that position. So I think that's an advantage because we have had some success stories both in sales, in handling special projects, and also growing some of our internal processes to serve these third parties. So again, because of the market is booming, and I do see a bonanza for the next 8 to 10 years. I think it's a great opportunity for investors to look into this because this is not a unicorn type of business.
Yeah, but cash flow must be pretty good, and it's yeah, the cost of products pretty interesting. How do you actually sell these things? Is it cold outreach? Is it relational? Yeah, how do you get inside your customers' pipeline?
That's also very interesting because it's a very uh, solid market. It's nothing new, right? It's not season. We're not selling clothes or trends. So it's a very well established. So you need to create a name based on quality. That's number one. Reliability and customer support. So it's not easy because again, if it's a certified product, it was price driven, the market, right? So it was a challenge. So some of the customers, we also have large distributors. We have EPCs or construction companies, integrators. So it's the discipline to run a pipeline based on a market study and start a sales process with cycles on it. And I'm a true believer of a word that I don't have a translation or an interpretation in Spanish, neither in English. It's a French word, which is rapport. So people, even though I'm in this position, they might call me just to buy one transformer because they know me. So first you sell yourself, you sell the solution, you sell the company, then you sell the product. And it's based on trust. If they don't trust me, they will not trust what I sell. But if they buy the product and they test the product, now they trust the product also. So it's a complex process, and I think my sales team has done a decent job on it.
Very cool. And what are the rest of your objectives as the CEO for the rest of this year?
Well, here's a good news for all of us. This is the first year after 84 years that we have the complete year sold out already. Everything is booked. Some specific families we already have booked even into Q1 of 2025. So I'm going to say sales right now, it's not a challenge for us, but it's manufacturing the challenge and being able to complete the manufacturing program.
Very cool. And where can people find out more about you, Eduardo?
Well, it's on the website. It's Group IG. It's over there, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Eduardo Ruiz. Very open. By the way, I'm a fan of LinkedIn. I have a little over 23,000 leads, so that's another way that I connect to a certain level of prospects and being very honest and being myself. So I believe that's the two main connections that you can get on hold of us. We also open a corporation in USA, so we're expanding over there also. So through the web page, we can source.